If you're leading an organization made up of similar units, we know two things about you. First, we know that you have pockets of great performers, extraordinary teams, groups, units, where customers are delighted, employees are engaged, and the results are extraordinary. The other thing we know about you is that you have variability of performance across those units. This is true whether you're a high-performing organization or whether you're a struggling one. It's not that struggling organizations don't have pockets of great performers. They absolutely do. And high-performing organizations also suffer from variability of performance across units. What separates high-performing organizations from lesser ones is the degree of variability. Put simply, high-performing organizations are righter and tighter. It's hard to overstate the impact of even a modest movement in the middle. Do the math. Take the average performance of the middle 60% and move it just a quarter of the way towards the average performance of the top 20%. You'll be surprised, even shocked at the numbers. Okay, so what does it take to move the middle? First, know that anything you do to improve performance will always fall into one of two categories. The first is called stroke of the pen, and it's just what you would think. It's anything that can be accomplished with the stroke of a pen. Change in the product mix, choice of location, or renovation, capital investment, change in marketing strategy, increase of staff, or compensation changes. Now, we're not necessarily saying that these are as easy as a stroke of the pen, right? They're going to require planning, consensus building, guts, and brains. But if you have the authority and the money, they are going to happen. The second category is behavioral change. These are the strategies or the improvement efforts that won't happen until people's behavior changes, or worse, their habits. It's going to take a lot more than the stroke of a pen to significantly improve your customer engagement, or adopt a consultative sales approach, or significantly reduce cost overruns, to improve your arrival experience, increase upsells, or reduce your out-of-stocks. These objectives are never fully accomplished with the stroke of a pen. You can't just write a memo and make these happen, and it's going to require more than your people's compliance to be successful. It's going to require their commitment. In a recent study, Bain & Company found that about 65% of initiatives required significant behavioral change on the part of employees, something that leaders failed to anticipate and plan for in advance. Think of the best-run operations that you've seen. How do they distinguish themselves? Is it their stroke of the pen moves, or is it the behavior of their people? Okay, the stroke of the pen strategies are easy enough to copy or buy, and over time they become commoditized. The key is the behavior, and you already know that these are very difficult to execute. In studying leadership challenges for over 20 years, we can tell you that the most difficult thing a leader will ever have to do is drive a strategy that requires a change in human behavior, and we don't think there's a close second. What makes this worse is that despite the fact that this is such an enormous leadership challenge, it's not recognized by most leaders. You don't hear leaders saying, "I wish I was better at driving these kind of changes." What you're more likely to hear is, "I wish I didn't have to deal with Mary, Kyle, and Sue." It's very easy, even logical, to assume that the people are the problem. And why not? It's the people who aren't doing the thing we want them to do. Who else are we going to blame? But think about this. Edwards Deming, the father of the quality movement, was famous for saying that any time the majority of people behave a particular way, the majority of the time, the people are not the problem. The problem's in the system, and the leader has to own that. A person, an individual, can be a legitimate problem, but as a leader, if you find yourself blaming the people, you're probably not dealing with the real issue. There's one overwhelming reason why driving behavioral change is so difficult. Within every organization, there's a clash or a rub between two forces. The one we call the whirlwind or the day job. This is all of the work, energy, and attention necessary to keep the organization running. This keeps the doors open. This maintains the operation. It's what people often refer to as the real work. The other force is the behavioral goals necessary for moving the organization forward. Now, these two things are not the same. They're both absolutely necessary, and they do not get along. Ask yourself this: would the people in our organization still be busy even if we didn't have any new goals for moving the organization forward? Think about the priorities, the initiatives, the strategies that you've seen die. What killed them? We see in the vast majority of the cases, it's not incompetence and it's not defiance. They are choked or starved by the whirlwind, by the urgency of the day-to-day. It's not that people are lazy, and it's not that people are stupid. They are busy. The primary characteristic of the whirlwind is urgency. It will act on you. The goals for moving the organization forward are important, but they will never have the same degree of immediacy and urgency as the whirlwind has. You have to act on them. When urgency and importance clash, urgency wins. Here's the bottom line. The trick with executing on a goal that requires a change in human behavior is not simply executing on the goal. It's executing on the goal in the face of a 100-mile-an-hour whirlwind. The 4 disciplines exist solely for the purpose of helping an organization execute on its goals in the midst of the whirlwind.
The marquee last year, after 1 year of Covey and being involved in this, really was the most successful year that we ever had. We had the highest guest satisfaction scores we ever had. We had the best ESS scores we ever had. We had the best sales we ever had, and we had the highest profit dollars that we ever had.
If you walk into the maternal infant unit now, everyone looks up and says, good morning, good afternoon. They are very concerned with making sure everybody feels that they are there to serve.
As of October 30th, our score was 99th percentile.
We started with our first group in June. Our inpatient satisfaction at that time was kind of, hovering around the 20th percentile. And in October, we had the highest inpatient satisfaction we have ever had.
We use the 4 disciplines of execution in 159 county offices responsible for child welfare. We were able to decrease repeat cases of child maltreatment by over 60% over the whole state of Georgia.
The good news is there are rules for doing this. The bad news is there are rules for doing this. The 4 disciplines of execution are those rules. They're straightforward, they're easy to understand and to talk about, but they're deceptively tricky to apply. As one of our clients puts it, they say easy, but do hard. They're counterintuitive. You will agree with them, but in the moment and under pressure, they won't feel at all natural. But make no mistake, these disciplines work, and they work every time. They move the middle by solving a leader's greatest challenge, executing on a behavioral goal in the midst of the whirlwind.